It happened in January 2021. What happened in January 2021? Joe Biden put his hand on the Bible and lied to the American people when he said he would faithfully execute the laws of this country. He hasn't done that. This is all about politics. Yeah.
Senator, in all fairness, I mean, it's also Senator Langford's border bill. I mean, was it a mistake politically for Senator Langford to sit down with Democrats and try and hash something out?
All right, go ahead.
Before let me tell you what happened. But before the foreign aid bill, Republicans in the Senate said, "Look, we would like to use this as an opportunity to try to secure the border." It's clear that President Biden's not going to do it on his own. Senator McConnell appointed Senator Langford, a good man, to negotiate some sort of border security package. James was negotiating with two people, Chuck Schumer and Chris Murphy, each of whom believes passionately in open borders. Those negotiations were held in private. Maybe my colleagues knew what the terms what terms were being discussed, but I didn't. In fact, I continuously cautioned our caucus, we need to know more about what we're doing here. And there was a concern about leaks, I get that. And there was a concern that it would make the Democrats mad if we all knew what was going on. And it took months. I'm not criticizing James. Let me say it again. He's negotiating with three people, if you include President Biden, four if you include the Secretary of Homeland Security, all of whom believed in open borders. Finally, they revealed the bill. And most, not all, but most Senate Republicans said, no, this won't do the job, and we're not going to vote for it. Now, that's what happened. And you can pretty it up all you want to, and the president can spend the day play acting and issuing an executive order and saying, I'm having to do this because Republicans refuse to act. But what I just told you is actually what happened.
Let me add something just real simple to that. President Biden is for open borders. President Biden wants open borders. The evidence is there. It's right in front of you. So he is not going to agree to any legislation, nor will he issue an executive order to close the border. He can close the border right now. All he has to do is enforce existing law. This is plain as the nose in your face. He wants open borders, and he won't agree to anything that actually secures the border.
Let me give you an example. Can I? Go ahead.
One thing I would add to that, if you were interested in border security, then Durbin and Schumer would have taken up H.R. 2, which H.R. 2 arrived in the U.S. Senate on May 15th, 2023. Now, at Homeland Security Committee, at Judiciary Committee, we've had a lot of meetings. We've repeatedly asked, why don't we take up H.R. 2? If they didn't like H.R. 2, they could have amended H.R. 2. But they chose never to take up the issue of securing the border. What they did choose to do was say, let's deal with the aftermath of an open border and pass something that doesn't address the root cause. They had their shot. They chose not to take it. Donald Trump left them a secure border. There are the numbers on Ted's chart. They chose never to take an action that would keep those numbers low, and then they chose not to take up H.R. 2 that would give them a remedy.
Go ahead.
Do you think it's time for Speaker Johnson to try to negotiate some type of deal with the White House?
No, the White House won't agree to anything. So understand, Marcia just made a very important point on H.R. 2. The House passed strong legislation that would have secured the border, H.R. 2. It was designed to secure the border. In the Senate, I introduced H.R. 2 in the Senate. Twice I forced a vote on the Senate floor on H.R. 2. Twice, every single Democrat voted no. Now, the press very meekly reported what Chuck Schumer said, which is, H.R. 2 is dead in the Senate. Why? Because it's designed to work. H.R. 2 is designed to lower the numbers back to where they were when Biden came into office. It's designed to secure the border. So Schumer was right. H.R. 2 was dead in the Senate. Why? Because the Democrats want this border invasion. That is the outcome they want. So you can't negotiate. Now, I will say this. I'm going to make a prediction. In the next 5 months, we're going to see a very modest decrease in illegal immigration. Why? Because Joe Biden controls it. He caused this. The Democrats want this invasion. So the next 5 months, you're going to see the numbers go down slightly. So then they can say, see, we solved the problem. It's a lie. They know it's a lie. And if, God forbid, they win in November, the numbers will skyrocket again and more people will die. Go ahead, last question.
Yeah, excuse me. A lot of you have talked about this being the number one issue for voters. You're running for re-election. There's a lot of polling, maybe not in Texas, but in other states, where Democratic incumbents are polling better than Joe Biden. That maybe they're not facing the blowback that you think they should. I'm wondering, you've gone to a lot of states, a lot of other senators are trying to elect a Republican Senate. I'm wondering if you have any thoughts on how, on the messaging for Republicans to get across in states that aren't on the border, states like Michigan or states like Ohio.
Well, I can tell you in Texas, the invasion at our southern border is the number one issue in the state of Texas, and I believe it is compelling across the country. Now, you're right. Democrat senators, when they go home, there are a lot of senators that go home that pretend they're not crazy, that pretend they're actually moderate, middle of the road. It's an absolute lie. On this issue, every single Democrat, all of them, have voted for this over and over and over again. H.R. 2, they had the opportunity. Do you want to secure the border? Every Democrat voted no. John Tester, he goes back to Montana, says, it's terrible what's happening at the border. And then he votes against securing the border. Bob Casey goes back to Pennsylvania, says, oh, we got to do something about illegal immigration. And then he votes against securing the border. Every single Democrat, every one of them. I forced a vote a couple of years ago on Kate's Law. All right, you want to talk about common sense legislation? Kate's Law polls at about 90%. Why is that? Because it's named after Kate Steinle, beautiful young woman in California, murdered on a California pier by an illegal immigrant who had been released over and over and over again through the revolving door of Democrats letting violent criminals go. Kate's Law says that anyone who enters the country repeatedly illegally with an aggravated felony will face a mandatory minimum prison sentence. In any room in America, in the bluest state in America, if you ask people, they say, yeah, Kate's Law makes perfect sense. I forced a vote on the Senate floor. Every single Democrat voted no on Kate's Law. So the challenge is, frankly, our friends in the media who are here, repeat the adjective when you discuss John Tester, you call him the moderate Democrat. He's not a moderate Democrat. Every single time he's voted in favor of this invasion. And there is a disconnect because every Democrat goes home and pretends they don't want this problem to happen, but they all want it. And the reason is they look at that invasion and they see future Democrat voters. This is all about power. This is the most cynical decision I've ever seen. Listen, every one of us here has been down to the border multiple times. I'll tell you, when you look in the eyes of a little girl or a little boy who's been brutalized, who's been abused by human traffickers, when you see women who've been repeatedly raped, it's evil. And every Democrat votes in favor of it.
All right.
Thank you, guys.
Bottom line, never trust a man whose uncle was eaten by cannibals.
All right, Tony, I've never seen a meme come alive.
Nate, yeah. Katie, great to meet you. Yeah. Yeah, you bet. Where you have Kate stashed away?
No, she was supposed to come.
That's what I figured.
Definitely got swamped somewhere.
Well, great to meet you.
Yeah, wonderful to meet you too.
Yeah. And I just
Unless you're busy.
like a lot of us. Yeah, exactly. No, I mean, this obviously like, kind of like, wait, no. One more thing. One more thing that we need reaction to. Exactly. And I'm actually kind of okay with it. Oh! Look who made time! Of course you were.
I was.
Yeah, you bet. That was great stuff. Yes. No, thank you for that. Not that I didn't. No, I appreciate it. I'm like, well, first they're like, what's the cost? I'm like, there's no cost. They're like, okay, like, what year do we need? I'm like, you don't need to, like, you know, like, we can just say that we're sponsored. And this is cool anyway, so. Right. So I was like, no, it's just like, exactly. I'm like, it just shows up on the record that, like, we invited, they're like, well, why can't people just hold a press conference? I'm like, because that's not how it works.
All right, sounds good. Thank you both.
It's a one-person
See
battle,
you later.
of which I'm fighting. Right. Well, we had a whole period last year where, like, people were just showing up, and then the gallery had to be like, excuse me?